Now we need to go into a little bit of what I call techno-data, some of the details about how this is supposed to be done. So that was kind of like the big picture. But now there's more to it than that. First thing is that you're going to be doing 4 actions with your body. And let's just kind of get some basic vocabulary. This is called bending. This is called stretching. Bending, stretching. Now, I'm not going to go into why yet, but bending and stretching is not the same thing as just retraction and extension. Because bending in Tai Chi is a whole thing. Chusheng, as it's said in Chinese, has a lot. It has much bigger implications than just the fact that something goes back and forward. But you have to start there. So here's a very basic rule about this. Your arm, when it stretches, never goes to more than 70% as far as it can go. No, it doesn't do that. Your arm, when it bends, doesn't go back 100. It'll only go back 70. With my hand, if you'll just watch, bend, stretch, not all the way. Bend, stretch, but not all the way. Now, a way that might help, there's a lot of reasons about what this does in terms of qi that's bound into things like opening and closing. It's bound in the way you move qi along different surfaces of your body. But that's kind of hard to remember the first time you hear it. So I'll give you something that you'll have absolutely no way of forgetting. So come here for a second, Jamie. Now remember, Tai Chi is also a martial art. It uses all this qi stuff for power. Okay? Speed is a form of power. Oomph is a form of power. I'm talking power now in a sense of power enables things to happen, not what kind. And this is a basic phrase they had when I was learning that I have to say that, you know, it really makes the point and you'll never forget it. The phrase is that when you have an arm locked, it snaps like a chicken bone. Have any of you ever broken a chicken bone? You ever snapped it? See, straight arms are really easy to break. I mean, they're really easy to break. They have all kinds of techniques. You see these things like where people stretch their arms out when they do a punch or something? This is a standard martial art technique. Boom! And his arm is snapped off. Now, people who did Tai Chi as a martial art didn't like the idea of this happening to them. So they have this very basic rule, and that is that your elbow is always bent. And you can just see it, that if he puts strength in his arm, and I go like this, his arm doesn't break. But if he straightens his arm and locks it and I do this, it will break. Now, that's not the real reason why it's done. I mean, that happens to be an application for fighting. The real reason is all sorts of things about, if you just can kind of look with any physical motion, just look at my joints. You're actually going to watch him. Here, put your finger here so it's really clear. Let's look at my elbow joint here. See the joint opening up, closing? You can open a joint without any physical, and close a joint without any physical movement, without any of this. But the fact of the matter is it goes along with this bending and stretching. Another big reason for the whole bending and stretching is that it's how you get everything to come out of your spine and how when you move your hands, you cause compressions of your internal organs. Let's forget about the details. Let's just remember, as soon as you straighten an arm, that stops. Oh, come back here again, Jimmy, with the second part of this. Now you have a second thing. If I have his arm like this, and I want to break it, and he resists me, he can resist me. If his arm is like this, with very little pressure, you can snap, you can pop the elbow capsule right out. No problem. Really quite easy to do. So you can also see how the people who had the idea of doing martial arts would not want to make their arms that vulnerable. Of course, that's also not really the reason why it's done, but it's a good thing to remember. It's because that's how you get compressions and releases inside the body. So let's not get all the why. I'm just doing that so you realize that everything in Tai Chi is done for a reason. It's not actually just done because it's pretty or someone said, well, you know, I mean, I like my hand going that way. No, I like it going that way. It's not about, it has nothing to do with visual appeal. It's all purely functional. It's like people who write codes for computers. I guess they can say when it's very efficient and works well, it's elegant, it's beautiful. But I mean, you got to be berserk if you think if people just saw millions of 0 and 1s, that there's any beauty in that. Yeah, how it works has an elegance, has a beauty, has an efficiency. And you can call that beautiful. But it's about functionality. It's not about visual aesthetics. Okay, so I'm just trying to explain that to you. Now, so what we want to look at now is in terms of this bending and stretching, here's what you're going to be looking for. When you do the first one, your arms are going to bend. Can you see how my arms and legs are bending? Yes? Now they're going to stretch. They're going to bend. They're going to stretch. And that's the first move. Bend. Stretch. Bend. Stretch. Now, what your instructor is going to do with you, your coach for the weekend, is that they're just going to make sure you get the basic thing, but then they're going to try and do something else. All motions in Tai Chi ultimately are bending and stretching from either your internal organs, through your armpits out to your hands, or from your spine out to your hands. So again, here's what's going to happen. You come here, Craig. No, I want someone who's a slightly longer body. Maybe take your shirt off. I think that might be a good idea. What I want you all to see is this. Look at his back. He can move his arms up here. Is his back stretching a lot? I'm going to show you this from the front in a second, but I want you to see something. Can you all see how his hands are coming out slightly? And now, look. You see the way his hands are attached to his spine? But if his hands go back enough, his hands are not attached to his spine. There's no connection. And the object is to make where every single motion that occurs, just watch, I'll face him this way. I'm just going to do this, that every bend, look at his spine, just look at his spine. That when he bends and when he stretches, it causes everything that's in the spine and all these muscles to stretch in the body. Why would you want to do that? Well, see, when that stuff happens, it loosens the shoulders and the neck, which everybody can use. But more than that, its eventual objective is to make sure that the spine gets completely used in every Tai Chi movement. Okay? So I'm going to show you what this looks like from the front. Could you all see that? Was that pretty, obvious? Now watch. What your instructors are going to do is this. On the first move, when you pick your hands up, you're going to do whatever you can, and then they're going to show you what the difference is. They're just going to take your hands and just lightly let you get a bit of a sense of what it's like for your hands to come out of your spine, which for a lot of people is somewhat of a new and radical idea because it's not something you do normally in life. Okay? Just remember one thing. Your back's not going anywhere. You're walking around with it every day of your life, and really, there would be real problems if you didn't have a spine. That's about all I can say. Your entire nervous system wouldn't quite know what to do. Now, this is the one side coming out, but then there's another side to this. Turn around. And I'll show you what I'm doing. Look at his back again. It's that when your hand bent, and when your hand now goes out, look, when it extends a little bit, keep your shoulders even, Craig. Just gets his spine to go out, but now watch. When his hands come back, look what's happening now. Now you're getting the stretch. You see his hands? This one's going down his back. There's going up his back, there's going down his back, there's going up a back, there's going down the back. So, down the back is when his hands bend. Up the back to the spine, out the hands is when his hands extend, when they stretch. The hands going this way goes back to the spine, goes away from the spine. And there's a whole thing in every motion in Tai Chi that as your hands come back, you're actually going to try and get the sense of energy going to your spine on the way in and on your spine on the way out when you stretch. Okay? So now, again here, if I do this when he's in front, just take a look here. Watch. So we start off from the beginning. So the first thing is he does this, and I bend. Okay, he's into his spine. Now, can you see how I'm having his hands come out, which is quite different from, just bend your arms, Craig. There's nothing there, and he sticks his hands out. That didn't activate the spine. That's a no-no. Okay? I think the joke would be that's working but not getting paid. Okay? So you want to get paid. You want your body to get paid for the fact you're bothering to put your time in to do it. So you got to do the things that make it work. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens deliberately. So in, he goes out, that stretches out. Now he comes in, stretching into the body. Now he goes out, stretching out from the spine. And what your instructors are going to do is they're going to help you. You're going to do this movement first. Just do the movement, Craig. And then they're going to do some very simple things. They're going to let you get, in each of these positions, what's it like, very gently, so you can just feel what it's like for your hand to be coming out of your spine. And they'll let you go back to where you were, what it's not, what it is, what it's not. They go and do it. Then they come in, what's it like for your hand to connect to your spine? And they're going to help you gently. And you're not going to be able to do that much of it the first time. You know, keep in mind, nobody does anything that well the first time, unless they're a prodigy. Okay, and most people are not, and that's a fact. Right? So what you want to do is you do want to get this sense of, with this bending and this stretching, that your hands are connecting to your spine. Now there is a book, a treatise, a thing that's called the Tai Chi Classics that has most of the principles of what Tai Chi is based upon in very abstract form. Okay? And what it is that there are whole phrases about it that go on nothing except about the spine. So the spine is a big deal in Tai Chi, both therapeutically, martially, frankly speaking, in meditation. I've rehabbed many people using Tai Chi who've had spinal problems. I once had my back broken in a car accident. I was literally 15 feet up in the air, and boy, when it came down, was it a scene, as they say. And yeah, stuff, put it back together again. Otherwise, I'd be in a wheelchair, which is not something I'm wishing for any of you. But if you have to have bad things happen, you might as well get something out of it at the end and learn something about your body. But the fact is rehabilitation is very important. So I want to make this point that your back, you just want to get the back first, because it's a slightly higher level of the art that when you can do this, that you can get the hands to make your internal organs be opening and closing too. But that's a little bit later. That's a little harder to do. You start with the spine, you do what's easy first, then you graduate on to what's a bit more difficult and pays a higher yield. Okay? Better programs give a higher yield, but you don't usually get the best one when you start off with. That's why, the computers we had 20 years ago are like they almost don't work compared to the modern stuff. But they're still got the same 0 and 1s. There's nothing particularly new in it, just a bit more sophistication. Okay? How are we doing? So why don't you go do this now?